I saw your announcement with Nike, and I'm wondering if that means that you're looking to continue in competition for a while longer, having signed with a company like that.
Yeah, I mean, right now, obviously, I'm just focused on the present, but yeah, I mean, I involved, being involvement in the sport of wrestling, and beyond. I think Nike gives the opportunity to make an impact in wrestling and also beyond wrestling. So I'm looking forward to the opportunity to, join in the Nike team.
Yeah, Aaron Brooks. How often are you seeing him, or have you seen him since NCAA's? Do you guys, go up against each other in practice much? What's your relationship like with him?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a competitive room, and we're very fortunate that Aaron and I both have great training partners. So every single day, we have pick of 15 different people we can go with. So I just think we're focused on continuing to get better, each other, and we kind of know it's we're getting ready to wrestle each other, and it's respectful. But obviously we're both competitors, and one person gets to go.
David, Carter competing at 86 and not 74 was something I think that surprised a lot of people. Was that something that you saw coming?
Yeah. I mean, I think Carter is just he is what we call a tweener. He's a true 79 kilo guy, and I think in his mind, I think he wanted to go to 74 kilos, but I just don't know that it was possible for him. And he's got to do his best for him. And I think I feel like it's in his best interest to go 86 kilos, and I think he's going to be extremely competitive this weekend. And he's a ferocious competitor. So, yeah, I mean, any weight that Carter goes in, he's obviously got a shot to do very well, and he's proven that healthy or not healthy in his career. He's just one of the best competitors I've ever seen.
David, you've seen Levi come through M2 when he was 13, 14 years old. How proud are you of him?
Incredibly proud. I mean, just what he's done for our program, M2 Training Center, it's just... He's a special kid, just in so many different ways. His just maturity, his commitment, his personality, his leadership. Those are guys that you hope you get an opportunity to coach a guy like that once in your life, and just got fortunate that it was one of the first kids we ever coached. I remember the very first practice that you alluded to, he was just in the room and wrestling with one of his teammates, and I'm like, this kid's a wrestler, and I didn't really know any of them at the time. I was like, this kid works hard, and then he's there the next practice. Come to find out, he's driving 2.5 hours one way. He's at every single practice. He just keeps getting better, and it's really excited for him and his success now, but it's just getting started, He's got a great opportunity this weekend to really see where he's at with the best guys in the world. I know he's excited about that. I just told him to take one match at a time, make the most of his opportunities. But I got no doubt moving forward in his career, he's going to be wrestling in Olympic Games and competing for an Olympic gold medal.
What's the best advice you gave him ahead of this weekend?
I said, listen, there's a lot of people that are looking for a reason to be done. Go give him one. And I think I've probably given that same piece of advice since the very first time I've coached him. He's a guy that makes people want to quit wrestling. He's not fun to wrestle. He's relentless. He's a great competitor. But the crazy thing about Levi is, he's only 19 years old. There's high school wrestlers that are 19 years old. He's in a different world. He could be in high school right now. But he's a sophomore in college. He's a national champion. And he's competing against the best guys in the world. He's just he's a generational talent, on and off the mat. So I'm just excited for him to compete.
You talked about improvement. You said you're the best you've ever been right now. How, at this stage in your career, are you identifying those areas? Hey, I need to focus on this. Are you talking through coaches? Are you feeling it in your wrestling? And how do you approach, making those adjustments?
I mean, I think I've always been very analytical, in the way I approach wrestling. And, I know in my heart that there's no stagnant option, So it's like in my mind, if I'm not getting better, I am getting worse. So I just think it's just constantly find ways to improve, and there's ways that people can wrestle me, and but ultimately I just have to continue to find ways to innovate, continue to be dynamic as an offensive scorer, improve my defense, the tactics, the situations. But really, I think what happens to a lot of competitors as they get later in their careers is they lose that fire to compete. And that's what it is, when it comes to wrestling, it's 6 minutes of wrestling. I know how to wrestle, but that fire to compete is fierce, and I haven't lost that. That's something that burns really, really bright. So as long as I have that fire, I believe I can be the best in the world. As long as that fire is burning, I'll continue wrestling.
You're managing so much right now, multiple businesses, a farm, a wrestling club, chasing another Olympic championship. It's incredible. How are you managing everything? I mean, it looks like you got your own media team. How are you doing all this, and how are you managing everything and keeping everything straight and in perspective for you right now?
That would be my wife. Kendra is like my structure, but I'm very fortunate. I have a lot of people in my life that really care about me a lot. I think a lot of times, that inner circle, as you get later in your career, it does start to get smaller. And people that I just have a great support system around me that care about me a lot, and they know when, hey, you're doing a little too much, you need to dial back. And usually that's my wife, and she's like, dude, you need to focus, you need to dial it in, you need to get ready to go. How's practice? She's not just asking me to have a conversation, she's asking me because we are a team. My girls come home from practice, they're like, Daddy, how's wrestling? How'd you feel today? Did you feel strong? Like, my oldest one, she's gonna be 4 next week. I was talking about it. Literally, I'm like, London, you didn't come in and give me a hug this morning. What's up with that? She's like, Daddy, you need your rest. You gotta get strong. I need a second Olympic gold medal. I need that. I'm like, okay, kid. I appreciate that support. So, I enjoy doing everything that I do. Nothing really feels like work to me. I'm just in a situation where I've been able to just do things that I love doing, and just trying to do them at the best that I possibly can.
Speaking of the farm, who's going to be watching the Highland cows while you're competing?
So I just let them out in the pasture, so they were pretty excited about that. I was waiting for the grass to get longer. I'm learning things on the fly, but we just let them out, and they were pumped. They're sprinting all over the place. They're having a good time. So it's one less thing that people have to manage this week while I'm not there.
How do you guys spend your Friday?
Just treat it like I would if I was competing. The nice thing is I don't have to wrestle 4 matches. I really, I got to make weight, treat that day the exact same way, and I think that's where experience and professionalism comes into play. Of going through multiple day tournaments and wrestling these tournaments at a high level. There's not really a lot of surprises, and being prepared ahead of time. I had a plan 4 weeks ago. And luckily I got Kyle Snyder and Kyle Dake that are on the same plan. So we're kind of talking, hey, should we wrestle this time? Maybe we'll do this time. We kind of talk through what we think is probably in our best interest, and we can kind of line that up. So I think that's kind of all plays into it. There's nothing at this level that's just like you're winging it. Everything is planned out. Everything is strategic. We're professionals at the highest level, and in order to perform at your best, that's essential.
Every country seems to kind of do their own thing and how they pick their team. What are your thoughts on how the United States picks their Olympic and world team? That process.
I think when our system was put in place, we weren't winning medals. At the time, it was in Russia. When was that? 2000.
How often were you training?
When they put in when you're sitting out.
We went to we went. We don't think we won any medals, right? And
9.
Was that 2009?
9 or
I think
10.
after that, it was kind of like, we need to protect our medalists basically. Like if you medal, the statistics show if you medal, you can medal again. But we weren't medaling at 10 weight classes at the time, So, but I think that system worked. We've obviously had a ton of success, in doing that. I don't know. I don't know what the best way to do it. I feel like what we're doing to select our team is working because we're winning at a really high level right now, and we are deep. At each of our weight classes, for our country, it has not always been like this. But we have multiple some weight class 3, 4, 5 guys at Olympic weight class that can go and contend for an Olympic medal. So it's a system that was put in place to protect medalists. That's what's happened. It's given incentive to continue wrestling because it definitely shortens the next year. But it is also, people know what they're up against, so they're preparing to go through a mini tournament, and they're preparing to wrestle in 2 out of 3. So I think people are competitors. No matter what's put in place, the best people are going to find a way to win, and they're going to find a way to go and represent the country. And so I'm not going to say what we're doing is right or wrong, but it's working at a really high level right now.
So we've got to talk a little bit about your future. Eventually, you will be moving on. Your name gets thrown around, maybe someday coaching college. You've been part of seeing what Cal did, that type of thing. Do you see yourself ever coaching college wrestling?
Are you trying to make me move on?
Yes.
I just said I love what I'm doing.
Yes.
we'll see. You know, right now my focus is this year. It's focused on 2024. You know, and then we'll reevaluate what comes after that. My desire is to help people in wrestling, and I do that at M2 Training Center, and I love doing that. You know, and I love wrestling. So it would be a lot. It would be a big change to do something different. I see what college coaches do. I see what our coaches have to do to be competitive at the highest level, and it's more than a full-time job. You know, it's a significant commitment. You know, and you obviously, I look at the coaches every single day, and I thank them for everything they do for so many people. But I love being at Penn State. And, I don't really see myself going anywhere else.
So you can just ask a follow-up to that. Once upon a time, coaches, after they finished Olympics, they had to go into coaching. Could you talk about the benefits that you're able to make a living as a competitor now, and you don't have to worry about that later?
In wrestling, you can if you're winning, right? If you're winning, you know, I think when I started to do the other things in my life, I knew that it could create longevity in wrestling because I wasn't dependent on wrestling solely to support my family. And in doing so, I've been able to be a lot more successful in wrestling. So I think wrestling has come a long way. You know, if you want to just truly chase your goals, you can do that. You know, you're making a living. So I don't know that we're still at a point now where, you know, you say, hey, I can do this route, I don't have to do the other route. But I do think wrestling gives you the flexibility to start other things. And I hope that other wrestlers will continue to do things that they're passionate about while competing, so it gives themselves longevity and gives themselves the choice. You know, I'm in a situation where I have a great choice. You know, if I want to continue wrestling, I can. If I want to continue to be, you know, involved with the businesses that I have, I can do that. If I decide maybe I want to coach, I could do that. But I'm fortunate that I have flexibility, and I won't be pigeonholed into one option or the other.
David, Carter, AB, and Max are all guys that have been in the Penn State wrestling program very recently. With you having a mentorship role in MLWC with these current guys, is there like any concern when you're teaching them stuff and giving them tips that, you know, one day if you're facing them, they could use that against you, if that makes sense?
I think, you know, wrestling is something that there's technique, you know, and technique's technique, you know, and I think people learn from a lot of different people. It's not like one person's teaching somebody everything, you know. But those guys you mentioned, I mean, they're sponges. Those guys watch wrestling at the highest level all the time. They're constantly learning and innovating. You're talking about some of the best wrestlers in the history of our sport. So, I mean, those guys are great competitors, you know, and they're always learning and evolving. And in order to do that, it's just a process of evolution that eventually, if you stick around long enough, you're going to wrestle people that you've helped in the past, you know. So I wouldn't be where I am without them, and I don't think they would be where they are without me. And, you know, we're going to all be in the same bracket, and that's just, you know, and we'll see what happens, obviously, when we go compete.
David, obviously you
in
said
the room where you're like, hey, we're not talking. Like, how do you separate that? Because it's like,
yeah, I mean, I think everyone's a little different. You know, I just think, you know, people are at different phases of their lives. You know, some people come in and wrestling's the highlight of their day. You know, there's days I come in and wrestling is not the highlight of my day. You know, it's just part of my day. You know, so I just think everyone's on different plans and different training situations, and that's where I think our coaches do a great job of continuing to help everybody develop to become better wrestlers.
David, obviously you said the system is the system, but personally, do you get a little bit antsy watching everyone else have fun while you're waiting for your challenger?
I'm plenty happy sitting out and not wrestling in the mini tournament. I've done that many times in my life. It's not a lot of fun wrestling in the mini tournament. You definitely, there's not a single person in here that would say I'd rather wrestle in the mini tournament than sit out to the finals. You know, it's an earned spot, and you definitely want to make the most of it. You know, but we've seen people in the past not be successful when sitting out. So it's, you know, so I think you have to take it, you have to approach it in a different way. You have to approach it like it is a tournament. You have to approach it like you are competing. You can't take yourself out of the fire and put yourself back in the fire. So I just kind of keep myself in there, stay in that mentality. You know, and I look at it, I'm 12 minutes away from getting an opportunity to go win another gold medal in Paris, but I got to focus on these 12 minutes ahead of me.
David, life's changed for you since the last Olympic cycle. Right? Family's gotten bigger, you got a little older. How have you been able to maintain and focus your responsibilities as a father, as a coach, as a commentator on the CFFC match day? How have you been able to put all those together and still be here right now as a number one guy?
It's challenging. I mean, like I said, there's days I come into practice and, you know, I'm tired, you know, but
You don't do much media, right?
I think that's where the experience of wrestling for a long period of time
The coach does such a good job.
is so valuable. And I know that at a certain point, everything needs to dial back and wrestling's the priority. You know, and I'm at a point in my life where if wrestling's a priority every single day, I wouldn't enjoy it the way that I still enjoy it. You know, I've been wrestling so much for so long, at such a high level. You know, I think there's times it has to ebb and flow. You know, anybody that has a sustainable long-term career, and nobody would say that they train the same way at the end of their career as they do at the beginning. But I've seen people, you know, kind of be in my shoes, and you can kind of see like, man, that fire doesn't look the same, and then you see their career end not the way they want to. And I've always said that as long as I have the fire, I'll compete at the highest level. You know, when I lose that fire, then I'm not going to wrestle anymore. But like I said, I have the fire. You know, I want to be the best. I want to go out and I want to win, and I want to perform well. And ultimately, that keeps you going. You know, on the days you don't feel that good. So, you know, what happened last year is not really relevant to what's going on right now. What's relevant is how I feel right now, and I feel great. And I'm looking forward to compete this weekend.
Hey, David, out of all the students you've taught, Levi's been around about the longest. What's special about him? Can you talk about your relationship, how you think you've helped him?
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit earlier. I mean, I just think the very first day that Levi came to practice, there was something different about him. You know, he was a hard worker, but just like he just had this. Not every wrestler has that fight in them. You know, people wrestle, but you know, some people are just willing to quit and give up. And Levi, it's just not something that Levi understood. He wasn't raised to be that way. When you see a kid that has a fire like that, you're like, dude, that guy can achieve anything he wants to. You know, so. You know, as long as you got that tenacity that he has, you just got to teach him technique, you know, and he understands technique. He's a sponge. He keeps getting better. You know, he's a guy that you only really got to say something to him one time, you know, and he's going to continue doing it until you give him another piece of advice. And, he's a unique kid in a lot of ways. He's done a lot for our club and M2 Training Center. He's obviously done a lot for Penn State, and he's helped me understand how to be a good coach too. You know, like what I started, and maybe the way I coached him the very first day, and the way that I would approach coaching him now is different. You know, he's helped me grow, and his duration was our first kid. Really, it's come through our program, and you know, just grateful for guys like.
It was one of your first actual kids?
Very first day of practice. Very first day of practice.
That you opened up.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier you didn't think it was possible for Carter to compete at 74. Why was that exactly?
It's just too big. You know, that's what we face with 6 weight classes. That's what makes the Olympic trials so difficult. Is you take 10 weight classes where you have multiple people that are the best in the world, and then you shrink those to 6 weight classes. So you have the best Olympic weight. You have the best in the Olympic weight classes. You take the non-Olympic weight classes, you put them in. You either got to cut a lot of weight or you got to go up. You know, and that's just the situation. I've been very fortunate. That was a big reason when I made the jump from 163 to 189. 189 was an Olympic weight class. You know, so I didn't even think about going back down to 79 kilos. It's like, man, I made the jump. This is an Olympic weight class. This is the weight class that has the most longevity, and you know, that's part of your decision. You know, and when you go to a non-Olympic weight class, those weights internationally aren't typically as competitive. And you can reap the rewards a little bit in the meantime, but eventually you're going to go back to Olympic weight class. And not to take anything away, the top tier guys are the best. Like you take the top tier guys in the non-Olympic weight class, they're as good as all the Olympic weight classes. But depth-wise, people gravitate towards Olympic weight classes because they can stay there. You know, and I think that's just what we face. You know, I just saw an article that John Smith was saying like before he was done in wrestling, he was against 10 weight classes in the Olympics, and he's a guy that can make that happen. He has the pool internationally, he has the credentials, he has success, he's determined. And I would love to see that. You know, more weight classes would be a great thing for us, for wrestling. But in the state of now, you're in a tough spot. You know, you gotta cut the weight or you gotta go up, and you know, people gotta make that decision.
What do you think about Bill's performance last week?
He looked good. You know, he got challenged. Obviously he rose to the challenge. You know, got a submission. He's got 6 finishes in a row now. So I've always said the sky's the limit for me. And we'll see where he goes. He's at that point now where the competitors are going to start getting more difficult. But Bo is a fierce competitor, and that dude hates to lose. So he's going to go back. He's going to make adjustments. I can see it in his face. He wasn't super happy with his performance. It's only going to fuel him to get better. So looking forward to what he looks like next. It's going to be good.
Have you gotten to see him fight in person yet?
No.
Do you plan on making it happen one of these days?
Yeah, we'll see. If it's possible to go watch him, that would be awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
David, there's a lot of outside interest and curiosity about just the dynamic at Nittany Lion right now, where you think about 65, 74, 86, there's multiple competitors that have a shot here. How have you seen that dynamic's obviously shift since you've gotten there? How do you guys handle that on the personal level with the awkwardness? Have you seen that kind of not have a negative impact, but change things?
It's the coaches, I just think the coaches have learned how to help us navigate those things, It's a great situation, It is, because we have such a high level. People will constantly say, like, man, dude, how do you compete at the high level? Does David still have it? I have no choice but to still have it, because I know where I am every single day I compete. Every day, if I want to know where I am, I grab Kyle Snyder, I grab Kyle Dake, I grab Carter. Like, I can wrestle at any given day, depending on who I want to. I can see where I am and how I feel against the best guys. And 19 years old, you can do the same thing. So there is, in our room, the biggest blessing is there is no what if. You know exactly where you're at, and you go into competition. At that point, it's just a matter of just going out and competing. And the separation maybe just who shows up a little better in competition day. But in terms of being prepared, we're all prepared the same. We're all given the same resources. It's a matter of just showing up, improving a little bit every single day, having a great mindset, and getting better. And that just comes with competition. And we have the highest level of competition ever.
Thanks, David.
Where you've kind of reduced how much you're competing. How do you think that's improved and helped your longevity?
I wish I could compete more, but they're just truthfully, there's not a motivating factor to go and compete more. If there was, I'm at that point in my career, I don't need experience, I don't need matches. I just want to wrestle the best people. And if I knew I could go to a tournament and wrestle the best people better than my room, then I would go. But our match day on Friday is a world championship. It's an Olympic gold medal type caliber match. Would I like to compete more? Yeah, I would break up the training. But I'm just doing where my heart's pulling me, and my heart gets pulled in a lot of different directions because I do love all the things that I do. But when it comes down to it, I love to compete, I love to wrestle, and I get the opportunity to do that this week at the highest level, and I hopefully get to do the opportunity to do that, in August in Paris at the highest level, and that's what my main focus is right now.
Thanks, David. Appreciate it.